We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We are 1,000 miles southeast of Moscow, on the plains of Kazakhstan. A Soyuz rocket, the 300-ton workhorse of the Russian space program, rolls out to the launch pad. This is the Cosmodrome at Baikonur, a sight few Western eyes have seen. Under the old Soviet Union, it was so secret, it wasn't even on the maps. Today you'll find outsiders here for every launch. As often as not, a foreigner is a member of the crew. The launch pad has a long history. This reliable technology has launched over 1,000 rockets. Most were never seen by the public. Now the days of secrecy and suspicion are gone. Nations of the world are banding together to build the first permanent international space station. Phase 1, a series of joint missions and crew exchanges, is now underway. Destination, the Russian space station, Mir. Mir is the Russian word for peace. There's a lot of hardware in orbit, but this space station with the hopeful name is the most complex of all. It's been home to scores of men and women for more than a decade. They come and go in a Soyuz spacecraft, docked there on the right. In 2s and 3s, they've lived in that central module, some for more than a year at a time. At first, that was the whole of MIR. The rest has been added over the years. Moored on the left is Progress, an unmanned delivery truck that brings up supplies. Then it takes away the garbage and burns up as it enters Earth's atmosphere. And now there's another visitor to Russia's MIR, an American citizen. Astronaut and scientist Shannon Lucid. She's a veteran of 4 shuttle flights and has already logged over 800 hours in space. She's the first American woman to live on MIR, and she's very much at home.
I think I'd been up on MIR, about 3 months when the first Progress came, and we opened it up. Then Yuri would say, you can just smell all the fresh fruit and vegetables that are here. So we dug around and we got those bags out, and for that lunch we had fresh tomatoes and onions. I think that was about one of the best meals I've ever eaten in my life. It was just great.
Shannon grew up in Bethany, Oklahoma. One of the cosmonauts was born in Russia, the other in Ukraine.
Well, one night, Yuri and I were sitting, sort of floating around, just talking about our childhood. Here we were, 3 people. We grew up in 2 different countries, and we'd been working together and having a real good time together. And that was just amazing to us, how the world had changed. We got talking about, when I was growing up, how afraid America was of Russia. And then they were explaining to me how afraid Russia was of America. The Cold War was very, very dominant in our lives. We would do bomb drills at school, and go underneath our desk.
An iron curtain had descended across the continent.
I remember very distinctly the night that Stalin died. Russia was the enemy. America had to be strong to be against Russia. I remember when Sputnik was launched, standing outside the school door and just thinking about, the artificial satellite going around the Earth. And I thought, wow, that's what I can do. I can go and be a space explorer, because certainly space won't be all explored by the time I grow up.
Says Miss McKee, the Soviet will overtake America and then wave bye-bye.
Then I remember when the first 7 were selected. And at that time, I wrote a letter to Time magazine, and I asked them, why were just males selected?
But the Russians were first to launch a human to space. The new superhero, Yuri Gagarin.
I thought that it was just absolutely remarkable that a human being could go into space. But then it was the feeling of, why is an American doing this too?
And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it.
30 feet down, 2.5.
I actually sold my bicycle to buy a telescope kit. And then a friend of mine and I spent a while out at night making a map of the moon, just like real astronomers.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's 1 small step for man, 1 giant leap for mankind.
The space race was in the air. More kids wanted to be astronauts than president. But the Cold War continued to escalate. Never in human history had so much death-dealing power been amassed. But even the threat of annihilation couldn't smother the human urge to explore. In the U.S., Titan missile carriers also launched the scientific probes Viking and Voyager to survey the planets. Some of the Soviet rockets that came off this weapons assembly line were earmarked for space exploration too. Then in 1975, the first joint U.S.-Soviet mission in space, Apollo-Soyuz, ignited hope for future cooperation. As tensions cooled further, new partnerships emerged, and American companies began successful joint ventures with the rocket builders at Khrushchev. Then it seemed almost overnight the Cold War ended. The Soviet Union was gone. these workers woke up in a brand new country. The new Russia now had the Mir station. The US had the Shuttle. American and Russian leaders agreed. Why not combine these great assets and explore space together? Ambitious new joint missions have begun. Astronauts are here in Russia, training side by side with cosmonauts. The first challenge to overcome, culture shock.
One of the reasons why I volunteered for this program is that I thought it would be a real challenge to be able to communicate with somebody else in a different language, you know, find out a little bit about life there in Russia.
These are the children of the new Russia. They're also the children of cosmonauts. Cosmonaut Vladimir Dezhurov and his family live here in Star City. This is the Russian space complex, in a forest on the outskirts of Moscow.
I really enjoyed my time in Star City. It was sort of like living on an air community-oriented in a sense that people walked to wherever they were going. They didn't drive cars.
Star City is also home to the only full-size model of the Mir station. Now it attracts a steady stream of American astronauts who are getting acquainted with the station and how it operates. Not only do they learn every detail about Mir, they do it in a different language.
In our typical day, we started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we would listen to everything in Russian all day long. There were weeks at a time where the only English I heard was when we were walking back and forth to class.
Charlie Precourt isn't Russian. He's an American astronaut, born in Massachusetts. Now he's practicing in a Soyuz trainer.
I realized when I started training and met the Russians that if I could go to the window with a cosmonaut, a guy who flew MiGs across the border when I was on the west side flying F-15s, and marvel at the beauty of our planet and share that moment with him verbally, I was probably doing myself a disservice.
Soon Charlie will share that moment with these cosmonauts when the shuttle docks with Mir for the first time. Anatoly Solovyev, on the left, has already logged more than 6 months in space. Next to him is cosmonaut engineer Nikolai Budarin, making his first flight. If anything goes wrong in space, the Soyuz is their lifeboat. Inside this centrifuge, cosmonauts condition themselves for the forces they'll encounter during launch and landing, up to 8 times Earth's gravity. For cosmonaut and astronaut alike, the zero-G experience is basic training. And for a space traveler, the training never stops.
The Cosmonaut Gymnasium is a great place for all the cosmonauts and astronauts to get together, especially at the end of the day. You'll find not just Americans and Russians, but there are people from all different countries in Europe. Claudie Dehaye from the French Space Agency. A lot of German astronauts getting ready to fly on the Mir. Folks from many different countries training to fly with the Russians. You get a chance to socialize and compare experiences.
Anatoly and his family live in a comfortable apartment in Star City.
I have lived in Star City for 20 years. I have a wife and 2 sons. And I have a dog.
Anatoly and Nick will train for their shuttle launch in Texas. Now it's their turn for some culture shock.
When we first came to Texas, it was quite unusual for us that we were so popular. Every day we were asked to a social occasion, and this was very, very pleasant for us.
This is the home of astronaut Ellen Baker. She and crewmate Bonnie Dunbar will join Charlie and the two cosmonauts aboard Atlantis, the first shuttle to dock with Mir.
Chicken. And the handoff has been completed.
This is the first mission to exchange Russian and American crews. It'll bring back Norm Thagard, the first American to live on Mir. Norm and his cosmonaut crewmates have been 4 months in space.
10, 9, 8, 7, go for main engines.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The pilot has to control 8 parameters simultaneously to make this a successful docking. You have 2 100-ton vehicles that are going to collide, and you can cause great destruction if you don't do that exactly right. If it is not in the right position, left, right, up, down, in or out, it will not mate correctly. But even more complex, we had to combine our position, our orientation, our speed, and our time of arrival so that we would be over Russia for ground communications with Moscow, plus or minus 2 minutes.
Okay, show us about 3 feet, 50 seconds. Okay, CCS is on track. Closure looks pretty good here. 40 seconds. So it's 2 feet. 25 seconds. Okay, we have overlap. 0.1, 0.06, 8 inches. 0.1 or 0.06. 4 inches. Now. We have capture. Ring was camping is on. Clock is running. Ring of line is flashing. Distance at 5. Ring of line.
Mission Commander Hoot Gibson opens a hatch.
Just the kind of thing that was totally unexpected. That you open the hatch and the first comment was, "No, you guys are upside down."
Congratulations, Space Shuttle Atlantis, Space Station Mir. After 20 years, our spacecraft are docked in orbit again.
That sound means they're coming up on a communications site.
Anatoly, being a veteran cosmonaut that he was, had been there many times before. For Nikolai, it had to be very exciting because this was his first visit to the Mir. The crew that was operating the station when we arrived was the mission commander, Vladimir Dezhurov, and the board engineer or flight engineer, Gennady Strykov.
The base block is the central module of Mir, but it's also the meeting place, very much like my kitchen is the meeting place in my house. There's a table, and it's a gathering place, whether it's work, whether it's a meal, if it's just time to relax. That high-tech piece of
and I are transferring a tank of water that's been supplied from the space shuttle over to the Mir. We actually transferred 2.5 times the original planned water transfer, some 1,067 pounds. We were busy as beavers during the course of the 5 dock days, bringing that stuff back and forth.
Vladimir, Gennady, and Norm Thagard have consumed some 330 meals around this table. Treats from home are much prized. and saved for special occasions. This will be Norm's last sleep on Mir.
Norm was the only American ever to ride a Russian rocket to space. He had studied Russian for about 3 years before the flight. We learned a lot about the psychological aspects of family separation from Norm's stay on the Mir.
One of the things we've suggested for the future space station, it's in Russian a kayuta, which means stateroom. You can also see the window, which is a very nice feature because you could look out and see the Earth or the stars.
Then it was Norm's turn to show the space shuttle to Vladimir and Gennady, particularly the space lab where they'd be doing the in-flight testing to find out what the effect had been on them of being in space that long.
We make some measurements to help us understand how the body has adapted over a long period of time. We make similar measurements after return to Earth to see what the body has done in readaptation. We had a new system for seating and re-entering the long-duration crew members. The backs of the seats are on the floor, and you see we made room for their feet in the lockers there. This gave them a little extra G protection, made for a very soft landing.
Put your head back.
In 24 hours, they'll pack everything up.
Good fit?
The orbiter will undock from Mir and return home.
Anatoly used to call us the hurricane. He'd say the Uragan Prashol, which in Russian means the hurricane has blown through. When we left, we shook hands with Anatoly and Nick, closed the hatch, and you knew that it got very, very quiet on their side. It's a bittersweet moment when you leave friends behind and you watch the two vehicles separate. It's a very true thing that the hurricane has blown through, and you know that you're saying goodbye and you don't really want to.
Because the shuttle has wings, it can glide softly to a landing. For Anatoly and Nick, inside the small Soyuz capsule, the ride back will be a lot rougher. Anatoly does a final checkout of their re-entry suits. Soyuz undocks from Mir and the two cosmonauts head for home. They'll aim for the plains of Kazakhstan. Soyuz isn't a glider like the shuttle. The only way to land this spacecraft is to parachute straight down to the ground.
You have to prepare yourself. This is a strong impact.
To cushion the blow, they fire retro rockets 2 seconds before they hit. The searing heat of re-entry has scorched the outer walls of the capsule. Inside it, Anatoly and Nick wait for help.
You have to move slowly. You have not try to be heroic, because you are not used to sudden gravity.
Anatoly's wife Natalia and the boys wait for him at Star City.
Of course, you think about this moment many, many times. You think about how you're going to meet, how you're going to see each other. I think it is difficult to express in words.
While these space travelers have returned to their families, others have taken their place. As the crews have come and gone, Mir has blossomed from a tiny outpost to a palace in space.
It looks sort of like a porcupine, and you wonder what all these quills sticking all over it might be. Well, these are the solar arrays. This is what provides power to the station. Every time anybody enters Mir for the first time, it really is an eye-opener as to the lack of storage space and how much equipment has accumulated up there over the years. Imagine living in the house that you now live in and you haven't thrown anything away for over 10 years, and then you bring in some new things. Well, where are you going to put it?
With large pieces of equipment and supplies to move, finding your way through the maze isn't easy.
When you come into the node here, you pretty much had to have an idea which way you were going ahead of time, or you could sure get turned around as to where to go next.
Every day I would either be on the treadmill or the ergometer, and this was very important because we needed to make sure that we had a body worth coming back to when we returned to Earth. I lost one of my shoes, and I still needed to exercise, so I tried exercising barefooted, which really hurt the bottom of my feet running on the treadmill. So I offered a prize, and I said, well, the person that finds my shoe, we will give them an individual bagadillo. They can have the whole bag all to themselves. Well, that sparked a lot of interest. And after a few days, they took up the panels on the floor, and that's where my shoe had floated to.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
The modules aren't all oriented the same, so you go from one module into another one, and you would be upside down in relation to where the ceiling was, and you'd have to reorient yourself.
The Priroda module is the latest addition to Mir. It's loaded with scientific experiments from the US, Europe, and Russia. The research done here today is vital for the planning of the future International Space Station. From each experiment, we learn more about the space environment and how to survive outside the shelter of Earth.
There's no water. There's no soil. The station depends absolutely on the resupply for its being, for everything. There's no means of cultivating anything.
We took wheat seeds, and they started to grow. And just before I left Mir, the wheat seeds had formed baby seeds.
What we need to get to, if we're ever going to go to other planets, is the ability to grow and regenerate in the spacecraft itself.
On this flight, we got to see a lot more of the Earth than I'd ever got to see on a short flight. When I first got up there, a lot of the lakes were frozen, and then over the next few weeks, you could see the ice break up. You could see all these big land masses. You could see them sort of green up as crops started to grow. I really enjoyed that. Norm had said that it was very important that a person have something that they enjoy doing in their free time. To make the place look a little more homey, I took food containers and I put them up with bungee cords, and I put my books in there, and it just made me feel really nice, like I was at home. On the first Progress that came up, my daughter had put a science fiction book on there, and I really enjoyed it, and I read the first book, and then all of a sudden it came to an end, and the conclusion was in part 2. Part 2 was not there. She had not put it in. That was the first time that I realized, you know, a feeling of isolation.
Then, some unexpected news from Earth.
NASA has detected a problem with the Space Shuttle rocket boosters. They were used to lift Columbia into orbit 2 weeks ago. That could mean astronaut Shannon Lucid will be staying on the Russian space station Mir longer than planned. Atlantis is scheduled to pick her up from Mir, but NASA says the glue problem may mean astronaut Shannon Lucid is temporarily stuck.
If there was a problem on Mir where you had to do an immediate evacuation, the Soyuz is always there. That's your lifeboat. That's your way of getting back to Earth.
no American has ever attempted a Russian-style hard landing.
Well, I thought about it, and actually I talked with Yuri and Yuri about it a little bit. I mean, I always think it's good to talk about all the possibilities that could happen. Sometimes it is a hard landing, but, you know, the Russians have done it for many, many years, so I was confident that things would be all right. My daughter sent a message up to me and said, well, don't worry, Dad's taking care of everything, you know. He was doing the laundry last night, and he put Windex in instead of the Clorox. So it's little daily things that, you know, really keep you in contact with the people that you love.
It's 8 long weeks before Atlantis is cleared for launch. Commander Bill Reedy and his crew are ready to go.
The actual night of the launch, when you go to the pad, the vehicle is alive, and the wind is blowing, and you hear the hissing and clanking, and the only people that are there are the folks that strap you in.
The flight that will bring Shannon home is now underway.
As you get closer and closer in the rendezvous, you need to focus on the task at hand, which is actually to resupply the Mir with food and clothing and water and even air. And of course, there's Shannon that's waiting for us.
Rescue me, or take me in your arms, rescue me. I want your tender charm, 'cause I'm lonely.
Atlantis, Houston, we have a vision of loveliness coming down in the city view here.
And finally, you get to the moment where you're in the docking system, looking through a small little window, and you can see the faces on the other side, and you can just feel the anticipation. But at the moment the hatch opened, it was just almost pandemonium. I mean, there was such joy and everything. It was just a fantastic moment.
I got lots of reports that they laughed a lot more when Shannon was on board. The first thing I saw when Shannon was back on 79 was that the crew around her was laughing. And then when I called them, the first thing I heard in the background was Shannon laughing. So I think her attitude is infectious, and I think that her attitude is one reason that this mission went so well.
Now John Blaha will carry on the work begun by Norm Thagard, Shannon Lucid, and many cosmonauts. They are the true pioneers, the first settlers of this new territory beyond Earth. Others will follow, but this is John's room now. It's still adorned by Shannon's birthday balloon, and she's left him her beloved library too.
But I told John he was going to have a great time, and, you know, just to take each day as it comes and enjoy that day.
So there we go. Clock's running. We have good physical separation. Looks beautiful. Okay, call that 2 seconds. Pedals free, executing opening right.
Watching Mir PC, I was saying goodbye to my home for 6 months. I was also saying goodbye to my friends. So it was really with mixed emotions that I said goodbye.
The day after Shannon's landing, President Clinton comes to Houston to welcome her home. Defying all predictions, after 188 days and more than 67 million miles in space, Shannon stayed on her feet for the celebration.
times when I was up on Mir, and I would think, wow, who would have ever thought that a child from Oklahoma in the 50s would have grown up to spend 6 months on a Russian space station with a couple Russians. I mean, it was just something that you wouldn't have put in your fiction novel if you were writing one.
When Dr. Lucid was in the 8th grade, she wrote an essay saying she wanted to be a rocket scientist. She was told by her teacher, there is no such thing as a rocket scientist, and if there were, it wouldn't be a woman. Well, our space pioneers reflect the very best, and Dr. Shannon Lucid today stands tall among them all. We are grateful for her. We welcome her home. Thank you.
It takes a lot of learning and a lot of knowledge to be able to fly humans in space. For so many years, we did it entirely separately from each other. It makes so much more sense for us to work together, building a future more endowed with peace and prosperity than with competition.
We are building a bridge to the future. Cooperation will make it stronger. There may be obstacles along the way, but our children will reach the planets. New worlds are theirs to discover.
How neat it would be if the United States and Russia could cooperate and go to Mars together and choose us to be the crew. I walked into my house for the first time. It felt like I had never been gone. Everything looked really nice and everything was all picked up. I mean, it was just great coming home. A couple of first comments my kids made was how gray my hair gotten and how skinny my arms looked. They sort of call it like it is.